I have a few questions that we're going to address today, specifically around when customers are in distress, when they get angry. And I think the reason why customers often get angry is they perceive that some injustice has taken place. And the fact that they perceive it doesn't matter. In their minds, it's very real. Or it might be that some boundary have been overstepped. Some expectations or promises have not been met, and some time or respect or some interpersonal violation. Because sometimes it's not about the service or the product, it's about how they were dealt with. And then often there's some kind of a financial loss or an impact that's been suffered, or a perceived impact that's been suffered. Sometimes it's a legitimate mistake. And then often there's misunderstanding about what the product or service would have delivered to them. And it can be a combination of all of those, or of a permutation of those. What's really important to understand is that whatever the perception is, it's very real to the customer. And often, and we'll delve into a little bit of the science, but often people start defending. As soon as they see that, they start defending, and we're going to go into the science of that. The second question I want to deal with is how do we recognize that this is a angry customer or a complaint? What we've certainly seen in many of the environments where we worked is that sometimes a query is perceived as a complaint. It's treated as a complaint. Sometimes it's just a question, but if you are faced with the same question or sometimes hostile customers, you start treating everybody the same. We start punishing everyone for the one or two that comes in really hostile. When it's in person, we need to pay attention to the tone of voice. We look at facial expression. We look at the language being used. We look at physical proximity. When someone's angry, typically in the animal kingdom, we make ourselves bigger, we come closer, we want to be intimidating and scary, and the body language will be quite a hostile body language. So you can feel the vibe when someone's angry. If I have to talk about email, text, and WhatsApps, now it gets very nuanced, right? And here I can still recognize the tone of voice, but I also see capitalization. I see some special characters entering it, sometimes some foul language, and also threats. We find that on email, the hostility increases a lot. And it's, I'm going to write to the newspaper. I'm going to dump chicken manure in your CEO's driveway. There's a lot more bravado often, and very much displaying bigger and much more powerful than what I really am. What's really important when dealing with an angry person, you want to listen to the story, you want to read the story, you want to watch out for the emotions, and if it's someone on the phone, you want to be making notes, because people give you so many clues about where they really are. They also have stories that reinforce this interaction. So if someone says, this always happens to me, always cheat me, sometimes these stories gang up on a person and they're making it about who they are and the fact that the universe is out to get them. Now, I don't believe in stuff like that the universe is out to get us. But if people have these recurring stories in their lives, sometimes they punish a brand. And that's where you find those they're irrationally angry. You go, what the fuck? This is not really like normal behavior that we're seeing here. It's very irrational. Then you know that there's a story. And the story is about every time they haven't been accepted, every time they haven't been respected, every time they haven't been valued. And this is their opportunity to try and correct that. And that's when you see sometimes that irrational, hostile behavior. Now, most people do not like the person they become in those situations. And sometimes the remorse will set in and they will start apologizing, or they'll say, oh, I know you just work here. Then you know they've realized that they're being irrational. They've realized that they're being very hostile. and they don't like who they become. Unfortunately, the emotions, how they feel about themselves in that moment, will become the emotion that they associate with your brand. And for me, that is the core of customer experience. There are some shops that I've never ever been back to after having a complete meltdown, because I cannot stand the person I become in that situation. The shop is good, the products are good, the prices are good. The last time I was in there was such a disaster that I cannot possibly go back. I'm too ashamed. So it's really important that we start paying attention to the target emotion that we want people to associate with your brand. And that target emotion is definitely not anger. That's why it's so important that everybody should be trained, not just the people who handle complaints. I know many of you in the room are people who deal with the same shit day in and day out. This is not just for you, this is for all of us. If all of us start handling this so much better and know what actually happens when we see anger, then I think the world will just become a better place. The first tool I want to teach you is the triage. If you've taken a child to the emergency room after hours, you might have noticed that they use a triage in the emergency room. When you take someone to the emergency room, they ask you questions like, are they breathing? Are they bleeding? You want to check like the basics. Is this person, how much time do we have? Are they going to bleed out, or are they going to die from a lack of oxygen? And they give it a color. So they give it a red, orange, or a green. And most people that come into the triage, they're green, maybe orange, but that means that the doctor will get to them in the order of urgency. When we look at triage, we have green, which means the customer has a query, it's a request, but they're actually not super anxious. They want it dealt with, but it's not a critical thing. Orange means it's something that requires a little bit more love and attention. Red usually means there's a lot of anxiety around the issue, they cannot transact, the product's not working, and that needs to be dealt with immediately. It's important to not all issues are equal. And usually what happens is sometimes a red will enter your environment. The person who receives it for the first time, they don't deal with it well enough. Maybe they pass it to someone else. And when red and orange issues are not dealt with immediately and they passed around in the organization, that's when it goes to the ombudsman. That's when it gets really ugly. This triage model, and you can set your own priorities and your own criteria for what you want in this triage. But that is a really great tool for your people to recognize when something is a red and when something is an orange and when something is a green, and you deal with it in your stride. But when something's a red and you're a new agent on the floor, maybe you call in an expert. Maybe you need a subject matter expert to deal with it. So triage is your first tool. Now, I want to share with you a real big surprise about anger, right? Anger is a smokescreen for other emotions. And what sits below anger is often fear, it's often inferiority, and sometimes it's shame. There is a model that says every emotion has a frequency. It's like a radio station. And if we look at that model, right at the top of that model is enlightenment. Then we move down on that model that says, next we have peace, we have joy, we have love, we have reason, we have acceptance, willingness. Neutral is sitting at a vibration of 250, just to give you some of the numbers. So neutral is 250. Enlightenment is around 700. But then we go down, courage, pride, anger is sitting at 150. So that's the start of the more negatively inclined emotions. Then under anger, you have desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, Shame is sitting at 20. Anger is sitting at 150. Joy is sitting at 540. Just to explain the model for you. So, anger is a really nice emotion. It's very addictive. And I'm a recovering anger junkie, just to get it out there. The thing about anger is it gives you energy. It makes you feel stronger and it makes you not feel weak. And it gives you drive. If you put your anger to use, you can get shit done. Angry people want to get stuff done. They want to drive forward. They're very ambitious. I don't want to stay here. But as I said, it suppresses the emotions below it. Let me quickly tell you about mirror neurons. Let's quickly do an experiment. Let's do an experiment. I want you, Marley, I'm going to need you for this experiment. I'm going to look at the screen and I want you to look at my face, Marley, and I want you to look at the rest of the people and take some photos for me. Okay, so I'm going to come really close to the camera and all you need to do is look at my face. All right, Marley, were they smiling? Okay, if you were smiling, the experiment worked, right? Because that's what we call mirror neurons. You want to mimic what I'm doing as closely as possible because that means evolutionary, you fit into my tribe. I'm going to like you if you do what I do. And the thing about mirror neurons is if I think there's a threat and I'm scared, it's contagious. I'm going to give it to you because that's how we survive. If I know something that you don't and I feel fear, it actually, they can measure in my perspiration. They can measure the emotion fear. And when you are in proximity to me, you're going to catch it. That's how powerful these emotions are. Use it to your advantage because you can choose a vibe and then say, this is going to be my vibe. And you have a high likelihood that if you're positive enough, if you are inspiring, if you are courageous, that you can actually give that to someone. The next tool I want to teach you about, specifically looking at people who have anger, is called the 5 whys. You're going to start your first why as a question. Why is someone angry? Why is someone angry? And you're going to say they might be having a bad day. Then you're going to go, okay, why are they having a bad day? And you are going to repeat this question 5 times. Often, you're saying to me that's ridiculous. But often, we actually get to a much, much deeper level of understanding when we use these 5 whys. I want to quickly tell a story. We were working with a lovely call center agent who was working in the health insurance environment. And she had this quirk that whenever she had an angry customer, she would put the phone on mute and she would start cursing. And she was her team found this really hard to deal with. She was going, fuck, 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 one of those, just because she was so struggling to get to deal with her own emotions. When we started working with her, we actually used a facilitation method called Lego Series Play, and we let her build the situations where she feels the most frustrated. We let her build that in Lego. And we really got to the core of her hardest people that she dealt with was people that needed medication for very terminal conditions. And she just couldn't cope with some of the medical scheme rules around that, the fact that she couldn't give them medication. We facilitated a session with her and she completely opened up, broke down, crying. She said, I feel so helpless. I feel so helpless. If I could give them my own money to buy the medication, I would do that. That was what she was concealing with the anger, is her own hopelessness. We taught her the techniques and we really could understand why she's being so abrasive at times, because feeling weak, feeling hopeless was not an option for her. So she got angry, and that anger was very misdirected and it really impacted her team. The next thing I want to speak to you about is the impact of anger on someone receiving it. We had that question in the beginning, how do you know it's anger? And then we're going to get to what do you actually do with it. But I want you to look at at your pinky nail. Just quickly lift your pinky, look at your pinky nail. That is the size of the part of your brain that reacts to anger and controls your behavior after you deal with a person that gets angry. It's called the amygdala, and it's a very old, very ancient, very prehistoric part of your brain. And I'm not insulting anyone here if you're sensitive about your age, but this is the oldest part of our brain, also called the lizard brain. The logical part, our prefrontal cortex, developed much later in our evolution. The job of the amygdala is to scan for threats. The amygdala is our risk officer. It looks for threats in the environment and it helps you react to threats in the environment. So it does one of three things. The first one is it makes you fight the danger. So you go, there's a threat, I'm going to take it out. Second possible option is, there's a threat, I'm going to run away from it. That's called flight. And then a third one, freeze. I'm going to stand still. I'm going to play dead and hope that this threat thinks that I'm dead. These three possible options, that ensures your best chance for survival. Now, in cave times, you would have a threat every now and again, but the cave people did not have like 150 emails, 150 plus emails. They also didn't have 100 calls a day. So this amygdala is scanning for risk the whole day. That's why a lot of people get adrenal fatigue syndrome, because they are just used to that fight, flight, freeze all day long. The thing is, you don't have control over this. It just happens. That's how your brain is built. Unless you are very aware of it and you train it. You can interrupt this, and I want to give you another tool to interrupt this. Even if you are not in a customer service role, even if you are just sitting in front of your email, every email you open, your brain says to you, this might be shit. There's also something like email apnea, where we actually stop breathing as we open an email. We hold our breath. Very unhealthy for us. So you can apply this tool whether you are just looking at your email or whether you are actually on the phone. And this tool I call Love the Angry Back to Life. So I'm going to use the acronym LOVE. The L stands for listen. And here, when people are typing, they are not listening. As soon as I deal with a call center and I hear someone typing, they sound very efficient, but I know they're not listening to me. It's really important that you listen to the words people use and you write down the words they use. How does a person know that you're listening to them? I've listened to thousands of telephone calls, and sometimes the customer service agents would tell me, our customers are very dumb. They keep on repeating themselves. And I go, why do you think they do that? Maybe they think you didn't hear them. If I do not give people acknowledgement, they might not know that I'm really listening to them, and they might repeat themselves. I'm going to say to you, the greatest way to make sure that someone knows you're listening to them is to play back the words that they use. There's a fantastic method that Chris Voss uses. He takes the last three words that someone says and he turns it into a question. And that does two things. It tells someone that you're listening to them, you're tracking them, plus it invites them to give you more information. And what you want to do with someone that's angry is you want to slow them down. The way you slow them down is to use the late night DJ voice. All right, you get it. Use the late night DJ voice. If you slow someone down, if you slow down and you come across as very calm, that will make someone calm down and slow down. Because anger makes someone go faster. If you can slow them down a little bit, they're going to think clearer and they are going to give you a higher quality of information. Don't underestimate the late night DJ voice. You all have it. You all have that late night DJ voice. I'm going to invite you tomorrow when you take your shower, you're going to practice your late night DJ voice in the shower. The next thing is oxygen. While you're listening to someone, you want to breathe, but you don't want to breathe shallow. You want to breathe deeply. So while someone's talking, you try and make sure that you're on mute. Otherwise, they're going to think you are providing a very different service when you start your heavy breathing. You want to breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and breathe out for 4 counts. If you do this while you're listening to them, you're going to oxygenate your brain, which means you are going to be smarter, you can think much clearer, and you send a message to your amygdala to say, hey dude, I know you might be afraid right now. You are going to either make me run, make me fight, or make me freeze, but I got this. That is how we communicate with that part of the brain, is we breathe and we say to our nervous system, hey, everything's cool, I got this. All right, so that's oxygen. The next part of loving this angry customer back to life, I call that valiant. Okay, and I want you to imagine we are on our horse, and we are riding on our horse, and we are going to rescue this customer with a lot of confidence and a lot of charisma. We are just going to be there for them, and we are going to say that, you know what? I believe in this moment I was chosen out of 8 billion people on this earth to help this customer. Sometimes we lose track of the fact that being chosen to serve another human being is an incredible privilege. Yes, it's hard work and sometimes we have a lot of pain, but it's an incredible privilege. I heard something incredibly powerful where someone said, oh, I have to work. And the person said, no, you get to work. You get to serve. You can do something else, really. If you put your mind to it, you can go and do something else. But you get to serve another human being. And sometimes when we deal with angry people, you know what? We call them assholes and we call them dysfunctional. Maybe they didn't take their meds today. We try and make it better for us. And we try and take away our discomfort. And we forget, I get to serve this human. I get to take them from a place where they feel terrible about themselves. And all they're doing is they're trying to defend themselves. They are in fight, flight, or freeze. And you get to coach them out of that. So that is being valiant and validating where they are. My last one of the love is eagerly. Eagerly, if you can't solve it right now, be eager to solve it somewhere else or to work with someone else to solve it. Support them with as much care as what you can. If you do this, if you follow this, love someone back from being angry. E stands for eagerly. E stands for eagerly. So if you do this, you will stand out above 90% of people out there. This is your competitive advantage, to use these tools, the triage, the 5 whys, and this love someone back from anger. I have one more tool I will show you in a little bit. If you do the things that I've covered with you, really understand the anger, choose your own vibe, do the listening, reflecting, use your late night DJ voice. The results of this is that you can shift someone. Now, Daniel Kahneman talks about the peak end rule. He did a lot of research with people going through colonoscopies, and he looked at how do they remember the pain. This was before colonoscopies were fairly painless. But the way people remember pain is by the peaks. The way customers form memories about your brand is about the positive and about the negative peaks. Unfortunately, most brands have very bland emotions. They don't evoke really positive or really negative emotions. When I work with complaints teams, I say to them, the beautiful thing about the science is if someone had a really negative peak, you have a better opportunity to make a new memory. If you take them from negative to a place of understanding, you don't have to give them a voucher. You don't have to give them a lot of shit for free. You don't have to fulfill all of their demands. You merely have to listen and take them to a place of understanding. They will remember you, and you will stand out as the only person in the world that listened to them in a time of distress. It is incredible how this stuff works. It's incredible. We've worked with complaints teams that have turned all their metrics around in terms of NPS, in terms of customer satisfaction, in terms of getting more compliments than complaints, just by using the science and these recipes. You can really create a memory and stand out. And these customers will most likely stay with you because you've made an impression on them. They will most likely buy from you, and you're banking love in a time when that customer is really in distress. This does not mean that you have to fulfill all their demands, but listening to them, loving them when they don't feel lovable, when they become that horrible person, that will really make a difference for your brand. The next section I'm coming to is what happens to service professionals, because this burns high energy. To do these things take a lot of energy, and sometimes there's a lot of exhaustion that sets into this service role. Some of you might be nearing burnout. Some of you are just tired. Some of you are saying the year's long. Some of you can't wait for the next holiday. And I want to say to you, that is unfortunately how this game works. We are all on stage, we play this role, and you know what, even Cinderella, she has a period, sometimes the boyfriend breaks up with her, she takes a panado, a few glasses of white wine, and the show must go on. But there's a few things that I believe that service professionals should all be doing. I'm going to share a few with you. I want to invite you to our 2-day program where we will go into all of this in a lot more detail. But how to conserve your energy. Sleep is crucial. This coming from an insomniac. I used to wake up all hours of the night. When menopause sets in, your sleep is... I would wake up every day feeling like I have a massive hangover. Sleep is so essential. And a few of the things that I've done to really improve my sleep is to stay away from alcohol, however difficult that might prove to be. Second one, make it predictable when you go to sleep. And this is a terrible one, staying away from screens. Staying away from screens. Because the screens, if you spend time on your phone right before you go to bed, you are signaling your brain to wake up. So you're screwing with the chemical balance in your brain. If you do those things, you can make your sleep patterns a lot more predictable. The other thing I do when I wake up in the morning and I'm wide awake, I don't try and snooze and go back to sleep, and I go outside. The first thing I do in the morning, I go outside. And if the sun's shining, I make sure that I get that sunlight. That's how you set your circadian rhythms. The next thing is eating. Eating is really important. Now, whether you're a meat eater or a vegetarian, I don't really care. All I'm interested in is containing sugar intake, reducing sugar intake, because sugar gives us these highs and lows. And when you kick away 6 energy drinks in the morning before lunchtime, you are messing with how your brain functions. Sugar is the cocaine for our brain. If you can keep your response to sugar just so balanced, and really try and focus on eating healthy things. Water is incredibly important for maintaining our energy levels. And then oxygen. We don't breathe properly. We have about 6 liters of lung capacity. On average, we use about 500 ml. That's why we love doing breathing exercises in our workshops. We love doing laughter yoga, because there you get a double whammy. You squeeze all the air out of your lungs, you get a lot of air into your lungs, and you release a cocktail of chemicals in your brain that you would need a prescription to get the dopamine and the oxytocin that you get through laughter. And yes, laughter yoga is a thing. And both Marily and I have been trained as laughter yoga leaders, and we practice it often. And then just in general, stress management. We don't do enough to really contain our stress. A simple exercise, which I'm actually going to ask all of you to do this with me, because we said this is a workshop and I've really been the only one working so far. I'm going to ask you to get up, and I'm looking at my lovely team there in the boardroom. I'm gonna ask you to all get up so we can do this together. All right, so the quickest way to process stress, and this is all I'll take off today, the quickest way to process stress is by shaking. You don't believe me, but I'm going to ask you, just put your legs together. I want you to just quickly close your eyes and just do a body scan. Just breathe in, see where you feel tight. How's your ribs? How's your shoulders? Just do a quick health check. How do you feel right now? All right, and then we are going to start shaking. Now everybody's doing it, so whether you feel awkward or not, I don't really care. So we're going to start shaking. Get your wrists nice and loose. Bob your knees, wrists nice and loose. Oh, well done, good job. Good job, my boardroom buddies. Okay, stunning. Okay, I want you to lift one foot. You can't see my foot, but shake your foot, shake your other foot. Okay, and we want to bob. Oh, my microphone's coming loose. I just shook my microphone out of my pants. Okay, great. Keep on moving. I want you to work up just a little bit of a sweat. Just a little bit, shake it off. Nicely done. Okay, keep going. This is a phenomenal tool. I also want you to teach your kids to do this. Your dog and your cat already does this. When they've had a nap and they get up, you can shake your booty a little bit. Yeah, shake your booty. We cannot be unhappy when we're shaking our booty. All right, great. I want you to go a little bit faster, just for the last bit, a little bit faster. Shake your hands, put your hands in the air like you just don't care. Shake it a little bit faster, Okay, now, hold your hands like this. Okay, do some of you feel that? It's like electricity. So what we've done now, we've woken the cells in our body, and all our cells work with a current. So if you hold your hands like this, you should feel a little bit of that tingling, a little bit of that current. All right, I'm going to ask you, close your eyes again, and just check in with your body. How do you feel right now? I feel a little bit out of breath, but I do feel a lot more relaxed. My hands, my knees feel so much more relaxed. So everyone, you can take your seats. So that is a very quick tool to actually process stress. If you do 5 minutes of shaking every day, it will change your life. They use this in the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder. People that have been in war and bombs go off next to them, really powerful tool to deal with trauma. And if you think about the life of a service professional, they have bombs going off every day, and they have a lot of undealt with, unspoken trauma that they're dealing with. And if they see these angry customers coming in, the tendency is that they will catch it. So it's really important, these last few things I spoke to you about, that's how we protect ourselves, is by employing breathing, water, sleep, properly eating, not going for the high sugar content. That really helps our brain to be at optimal health and optimal function. All right, the last tool I'm going to teach you, and I'm looking at the time with, if you're catching anxiety from me, it's really just because I'm looking at the time and I'm going, please, Time Master, don't make the session go so fast, because I'm actually really loving it. The last tool I want to share with you is gratitude. I listen to these people that pray to the moon and dance around the trees, and I'm fairly skeptical when it comes to that. I'm a trained mathematician and a computer scientist. I've learned to really love working with people, but my background is science. When I heard about this gratitude thing the first time, I went, I'm not so sure about this, but I've seen it. We've trained over 2,000 brand warriors in the last 5 to 7 years. Just thanking someone at the end of an email or the end of a call changes your brain chemistry. Saying to someone, thank you for letting me serve you today. Thank you for letting me witness how important this is to you. Thank you for letting me be here today. Thank you for letting me solve this problem in this creative way. You've given me an opportunity to live my purpose. You've given me an opportunity to shine today and be there for you in a very difficult time. Often when agents are thanked on the phone, they go, oh, no, it's nothing. It's my job. And I teach them to not do that. Don't bat it away. When someone says, thank you for helping me today, you go, thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's so nice to hear that I've made a difference today, because that changes the chemistry of both the giver and the receiver's brain. We did a wonderful project with one of our clients where they found that in this particular area, they needed to retain more clients and they were struggling. And we listened to these calls, and the calls were like debt collectors' calls. It invoked a lot of shame. The thing that I didn't say about shame earlier that I wanted to say is often shame and money is very interlinked. When you don't earn a lot of money, you have shame. When you earn a lot of money, you have shame. So there's a ton of shame around money. And this client that we worked with, all we did is we changed the order of the things that they dealt with in this call. We started with a lot of connection and love, and we ended with a lot of gratitude. And the metrics, the KPIs skyrocketed, absolutely skyrocketed. And it's just because we focused on the human connection. That is so crucially important. I want to just invite you. You can spend 2 days with us in a service recovery masterclass where we cover this in a lot more detail. As you can see, I'm super passionate and 60 minutes are just way too short. And my team is going to give you a sign-up link. And if you sign up today, we are going to give you a 10% discount. If you want group bookings, register on the link we're going to give you, and we will get in touch with you and give you an opportunity to book more people. You can reach out personally to Leilani if you have any questions. I want to invite the people from Mauritius. I have a really special treat for you. We have a platinum event that's taking place in October, where I will be running the Service Recovery Masterclass in person in Mauritius. The program is MQA approved, and my team will drop a link into the chat where our friends from Mauritius can register for the platinum event. Space is limited, so I want to make sure that you're not disappointed. If you are interested in attending, register and we will get back to you. Wow, that was a whirlwind tour. I want to invite you, go and share something that inspired you today with someone else. I think sometimes we underestimate the impact that we have on other people's lives. For me, the biggest joy is giving to someone who can do nothing for me. I love the fact that we see so many people coming back month after month. If you were chosen to go and serve others, do it with all your heart. Do it with as much love as what you can. And remember, you don't have to do it. You get to do it. You get to get up every morning and give with all your heart.